2023 is likely to be one of the biggest years for the Fallout franchise in a long time. We have some genuine major new releases, like the next-gen update for Fallout 4, which is not only going to be a next-gen upgrade, but also includes some bonus Creation Club content, perhaps a little mini free DLC for the game, but also the highly anticipated Fallout TV show that just seems to be looking better and better the more we see of it. With that said, many fans are unable to shake this feeling that the Fallout IP is being wasted right now. The next Fallout game may still be a decade away at this point, and continuing updates for Fallout 76 have left many fans pretty disappointed, but there is hope. In this video, we're going to talk some about the latest Obsidian Fallout rumors, where things stand on that front, but also some of the new trademarks filed around the Fallout IP and why this could be pretty interesting. But in general, I want to give you a decent idea as to where the Fallout franchise is likely to be headed, at least based on all of the evidence we have right now. As far as long-term plans go, we know that Fallout 5 is coming, and coming from Bethesda Game Studios. Todd Howard has already confirmed this.
Elder Scrolls 6 is in pre-production, and we're going to be doing Fallout 5 after that. So our slate's pretty full going forward.
And at least for a little while now, it seems like they also have a pretty good idea of what Fallout 5 will look like, at least on a very high level.
We have a one-pager on Fallout 5, what we want to do. Again, if I could wave my hand and say, have
Right.
that out.
But as you start to do some of the rough math, and we now see that Starfield is dropping at the end of 2023, even if Bethesda somehow manages to pump out games every 3 years, we wouldn't actually get Fallout 5 until 2029. And that is like the single most optimistic scenario. In reality, it's probably several years after that. There is a plausible and realistic timeline where Fallout 5 doesn't come until 2033. But the thing is, Bethesda knew this. In many ways, it seems like Fallout 76 was spun off back in 2018 as a live service game, mainly as a way to keep Fallout fans satiated during the enduring wait for Fallout 5. So how is that all going right now? Well, honestly, depending on how you look at it, it could either be viewed as going pretty good or not all that great. The most recent updates around Fallout 76 make the future look even a bit more grim. A new update came out for the game just a couple of weeks ago with Mutation Invasion. The marketing around this, as always, looks amazing, but in reality, it's actually a pretty simple one. It'll make it so some of the enemies at events sometimes have a new mutation effect on them. Everything else about these events is exactly the same, so it's really just a slight modifier on those events that you probably completed tens if not hundreds of times at this point. And the community calendar they just dropped depicts not a lot else, at least not anytime soon. It shows things like the Spooky Scorched, which are typically a Halloween event, but now that's being used in March as filler content, and the only other new content listed on this is just the return of several limited time events which are already released. You've already played them in Fallout 76, they're just coming back again. So now this community calendar isn't a proper roadmap. A proper roadmap could come, maybe even later this week, and fill in a lot of this, but at the very best, it seems like we'll make it through about a third of 2023 without Fallout 76 getting much of any new content. And this is the story we've been hearing for Fallout 76 for years now. Pretty fun content updates that are just way too spaced out or just become boring quickly due to their grinds associated with them. Expeditions was touted as the big new feature for years, but now only a few months after its initial release, it finds itself largely ignored and abandoned. And the last proper story content for Fallout 76 was all the way back in July of 2021. And it's a shame, because I believe Fallout 76 found that winning formula of tying story content with some kind of themed, repeatable event content to create an overall fun balance of new content for everyone. But as of right now, the rate of release is just far too sparse. And the craziest part about this with Fallout 76 is the player count's pretty strong. The Steam player count has grown year over year, and on Xbox, the game has always been in the top 50 played games. And even for 2022, averaged over 1 million players per month, which is growth over 2021. Despite these pretty good players, we still don't really have a ton of content coming to this game. But okay, even though the future of Fallout 76 looks at least a bit grim, despite having relatively solid players, thankfully we have other avenues of hope. One such are some of the new trademark filings around Fallout, which is a pretty interesting and unexpected update. Over the last couple of weeks, Bethesda has filed a bunch of new Fallout trademarks. Nowadays, trademark updates aren't all that newsworthy, but filing of new trademarks actually is pretty interesting, and that's what's happening here. We can see a new entry for a different Fallout logo, one without a border around it, and this time just being the letters, some Vault-Tec themed apparel, as well as Fallout themed merch, toys, and even entertainment services. And while these trademarks individually aren't necessarily a huge deal, it definitely seems like this is Bethesda Game Studios preparing for a new wave of content, which is very likely to be either around the Fallout TV show or next-gen update for Fallout 4, or maybe even both of those. The Fallout TV show comes in as a really interesting X factor to me. From all of the work-in-progress set photos we've seen, and even some of the official photos, this show looks incredible. Like it is going to be a very faithful recreation and adaptation of Fallout on the big screen. We've seen major factions being present here, the NCR, likely the Enclave, and even the Brotherhood of Steel. And though in its own right, this show is very likely to be a financial success, you have to imagine Bethesda has some kind of game tie-in to monetize viewership even further. Cyberpunk Edgerunners was massive. It literally turned around Cyberpunk 2077 and allowed it to reach new player heights that it hadn't seen since the release of the game. And this was enduring. It actually lasted several months, and even still, the game sees more players than it did before Edgerunner's release. This likely netted CDPR millions in additional revenue, and you have to imagine Bethesda's paying attention to that. The Fallout TV show dropping and then having some other content, whether it be in the Fallout 4 Next Gen update or even in Fallout 76, seems like a big opportunity that Bethesda wants to capitalize on. I could see this being a big tie-in DLC for Fallout 76. It definitely seems like it could be fun with the social aspect, but as we highlighted a bit earlier, there hasn't been a ton going on with that game. So now on one hand, perhaps this is evidence that they're working on something larger for later in the year, although that isn't the only Fallout game slated to get an update, as again we do have the Fallout 4 Next Gen update. As of right now, we have very few details on this. Literally, it's just a couple of sentences that Bethesda published in an article last year, and they detail basic next gen features like high frame rate performance modes, quality features to play at 4K. But where things start to get a bit more exciting is they also mention bug fixes and bonus Creation Club content, which means there's going to be some amount of actual content with this update, not just improved resolution or performance, but actual changes to the game itself. There's this weird situation with Creation Club where although the last release for Fallout 4's Creation Club came in 2019, we know work on Creation Club items continued into 2021. So right now, there are a bunch of Fallout 4 Creation Club items just sitting there unreleased that could end up releasing here. We of course saw this on a large scale with Skyrim Anniversary Edition, but now the question is how much of this will actually come to Fallout 4 with this next gen update? And we don't really know. It's very unlikely to be anywhere near the scale of Skyrim Anniversary Edition since that was a paid update and this next gen update for Fallout 4 is free, but at the very least in 2023, Fallout 4 is likely getting some free single player content from Bethesda. And my thinking on this is like, if Bethesda is already working on updating Fallout 4 at the exact time they are developing a Fallout TV show, to me this seems like a clear opportunity to add in some TV show themed content into Fallout 4. So that's yet another outlet where the Fallout IP could remain active later this year. But speaking of Creation Club, what about just Creation Club overall? I put out a video late last year around the rumors I've heard of paid mods returning, a Creation Club 2.0 of sorts. I'll have a link to the full video in the eye, but to summarize, there were former Creation Club members talking about it coming back. Todd Howard has consistently been mentioning new ways to get modders paid, and the biggest piece of new evidence is the new branch of Skyrim on Steam titled Marketplace. And although all of that is interesting, it looks like Skyrim is getting a full-fledged mod marketplace. And in the past couple of months, we've continued to see updates and changes around Skyrim on SteamDB, even more as of late, but Fallout 4 is completely dead. Although there's been a ton of activity on the Skyrim side, on the Fallout 4 side, there really hasn't been anything. Not even a new branch for that next-gen update. So though this all could be hidden, it does seem kind of odd how Skyrim has so much activity and Fallout 4 none, so in all likelihood, this is just a feature that's only coming to Skyrim, for better or worse. But okay, moving away from just updates for some of the existing titles, what about an entirely new Fallout game from Bethesda Game Studios or even another company like Obsidian? We of course know that Fallout 5 is coming, just fairly far in the future, but we also saw a variety of rumors around a new Bethesda Game Studios game. This was actually shown officially by Bethesda in some of the job listings, but even further mentioned on LinkedIn. And although there are many people begging for a remake or remaster game from Bethesda, it seems like what this unannounced title is just Spy Team. Whatever Spy Team is, it doesn't sound like a Fallout game, but we have heard this is some kind of Todd Howard passion project and in all likelihood a mobile game. So although Bethesda Game Studios definitely could have something up their sleeve, at least as of right now, there's no evidence of that. And especially considering how long Starfield is taking, I imagine they have just about everyone working on finishing that game and not actually on some surprise Fallout remaster. But we also have heard varying rumors that both Obsidian and In Exile are working on a new Fallout game. The In Exile rumors are largely unfounded and originate from Dealer Gaming on YouTube, where they mention hearing and Exiles working on an Unreal Engine 5 Fallout game, which for me is kind of hard to imagine.
2 unannounced Unreal Engine 5 RPGs from In Exile, and I've heard at least one of them is Fallout. Yes, I've mentioned this multiple times over my own videos and podcasts. This was something I was told some time ago, and remember, Brian Fargo and company were the ones who actually built up the Fallout IP, eventually selling it to Bethesda, yes, when they were known as Interplay.
The more concrete ones are on the Obsidian side, where we heard from Jeff Grubb that at Microsoft the idea of an Obsidian Fallout was at the very least being discussed.
Very early. This is very early, but people have begun to have talks and say these words in sentences, and those words are Obsidian and New Vegas 2. I will say that there's at least an interest and conversations being had about making something like that actually a reality.
And on this front, we have heard from the head of Obsidian directly and very recently on the topic of an Obsidian Fallout. In one instance, when asked about working on a new Fallout game, the head of Obsidian said, "Of course, if we ever got the opportunity to make another Fallout game, we'd make it. There's not even a question of whether or not we would do it, it's just will the opportunity arise." I hung around at Interplay for probably an extra year because I wanted to work on Fallout more. I love Fallout. And this was even followed up in yet another interview, with them saying, "We're not working on it right now, our plate is pretty full with Avowed, Grounded, and Outer Worlds too. I don't know when we're going to start talking about new games, maybe towards the end of next year, that being the end of 2023. We just have to see what's going on, that's the best way to say it. There's nothing in the plans, nothing on the piece of paper that says that, but I'll stick to what I said. I would love to make another Fallout before I retire. I don't know when that is, I don't have a date of my retirement." So unless Fergus is constantly lying to interviewers, which I guess could be possible, to me it definitely seems like Obsidian is not currently working on a Fallout game. Now this isn't super shocking. Todd Howard himself talked about keeping Fallout in-house.
Is there a scenario where you hand Fallout off?
I don't see, look, Fallout's really part of our DNA here.
Yeah.
We've worked with other people from time to time. I can't say what's going to happen.
And even if, let's say today, Obsidian got the green light to develop Fallout New Vegas 2, it would still be pretty far off, perhaps even further off than Bethesda's Fallout. Obsidian still has Avowed, which has been radio silent for almost 3 full years now, and of course the Outer Worlds 2, which is another huge project that we don't know much of anything about. Although one aspect of this that does give me a bit of hope is some of these quotes from the head of Obsidian, the fact that this keeps coming up in interviews and he keeps giving responses like this, although he's probably just always asked about Fallout in interviews, but to me it almost seems like he's trying to put public pressure on to get Obsidian a new Fallout. Or at the very least, he's bringing it up because yes, he does genuinely want to work on this, as he is explicitly stating, and by making it more of a news story, by making some of the fans continue to demand an Obsidian Fallout, maybe it'll actually happen. It'll still be very far away, but at the very least, it seems like that idea is being floated internally at Microsoft, and there are definitely people at Microsoft that definitely want to see this happen. So maybe the next Fallout game isn't coming until 2030, but hey, maybe another one will come in 2031. So with that in mind, it really does seem like the answer to what is going on with Fallout is we are waiting for Bethesda to make the next one. We'll continue to get content for Fallout 76. They recently revealed they have a 5-year plan for the game, and honestly, the content we have been getting recently isn't too bad. Several Fallout 4 modders helped make the last major Nuka World on Tour update, and although this was a complete blast to play, it really is just a few new events with very little story content that does get dry relatively quickly. Expeditions did seem to disappoint many fans despite it being the big new feature, so the future of that is a bit unclear, and frankly I'm not sure how excited people will get over new expeditions without story content, and even mod support now doesn't seem all that exciting with Starfield just right around the corner, if Fallout 76 ever actually does get mod support. So although 2023 is likely to be a massive year for the Fallout franchise overall, with people flocking back to Fallout 4 and even the TV show, at the same time it still feels like this incredible IP is largely being wasted, as of right now it doesn't seem like any new games are in development. Thankfully it does seem like there are many avenues to rectify this. More steady content for Fallout 76 is an easy and simple one. Alternatively, a secondary studio at Microsoft working to remaster or remake one of the old games, or even Creation Club returning to Fallout 4. I know many fans would hate it, but there's also quite a few fans that would love it. But if you are looking for some free new DLCs coming to Fallout 4 soon, check out this video as several DLC-sized mods are coming to Fallout 4 in 2023, and several of these are really close to releasing.